Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, the Indiana National Guard touts its economic impact. The city of Indianapolis launches a strategic plan for one of its most important assets. DePauw University's president talks going green and more. A first-of-its-kind yoga studio opens in Fishers. Trendiana focuses on agritourism. A change at the top for a high school sports group, and our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The Indiana National Guard plans to release an economic impact study next month to detail its full impact on the state's economy. The Guard says its economic footprint in the state covers over 16,000 jobs and an impact of over $500 million. Adjutant General Major General Courtney P. Carr joined host Gary Dick with more.
Let's start out. Everyone knows the National Guard, the Indiana National Guard, but give us the mission, essentially, because it is far-reaching.
So the National Guard is the only military service that has this dual mission. So we're both Army and Air. It's a joint service. And we have the federal mission that you mentioned, where we mobilize and send folks all over the world for that federal mission. But then we have the state mission in response to a request from the governor for providing support and rescuing our neighbors statewide.
You and I had a conversation some weeks ago, and I think one of the best kept secrets is the economic impact that the Guard has on Indiana. I know you've commissioned a study. You'll be releasing full details here in short order. But give us an idea. As I mentioned in the introduction, $500 million plus in economic impact. It's
significant. So Indiana has the fourth largest Army National Guard, sixth largest overall. And so the salaries are federal salaries. So it's federal money coming into the state of Indiana in excess of $300 million. And then you add exercises, spending, military construction on top of that. And it works out to be, like I said, in excess of $500 million of impact to the state of Indiana to help drive the economy.
A lot is made about Indianapolis and more broadly Indiana becoming a real tech hub. And from the Indiana National Guard standpoint, cybersecurity is such a big issue. And there are a lot of cyber assets when you talk about impact today, but also for the future. Indiana really is positioned to be a leader in cyber.
So we are. We have one of 10 National Guard cyber defense teams headquartered in Indiana. In fact, they just recently deployed to Fort Meade, Maryland on a very high-level cyber defense mission. But we also have a cyber range down at Muscatatuck that has real-life cyber effects. And so this is the only range like it in the nation. And the Army's most elite cyber forces are coming to Indiana to train because of this capability. So we have the structure here in Indiana that gives us internal capability, but then we also have the asset at Muscatatuck that allows the entire nation to benefit from our capabilities.
A lot going on around cyber, including in the training aspect. The Cyber Academy, I know, is a partnership between the Indiana National Guard and Ivy Tech.
It is. And for us, because we're growing force structure, we're getting more cyber units, it's important for us to be able to train a foundational cyber capability and try to recruit more cyber warriors. For a couple of years, we've been working on this initiative with Ivy Tech. They're actually going to put a cyber academy, a 2-year degree program at Muscatatuck, but they're going to issue that degree in 11 months because it takes place in the immersive environment of the cyber range.
Wow. As we wrap up, you talk about Muscatatuck, Atterbury, some of the assets. There's been talk about a kind of a defense and military corridor, if you will, a real focus.
Yeah, and so we do have very unique assets between Atterbury and Muscatatuck, the air range that combines the two. And the Lieutenant Governor's Office and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation have the Indiana Office of Defense Development, and Danielle Chrysler runs that for the state, and she's bringing together all the military partners, all the military industrial defense industry to find synergy and expand that economic base for the state of Indiana. And we're seeing some success with that.
Real economic impact in excess of $500 million. The Indiana National Guard, Major General Courtney Carr, thank you for being here. Thanks for your service as well.
Sir, thank you.
Still to come, DePauw University's president talks about $40 million strategic plans, and a new yoga concept comes to Fishers. But first, Central Indiana leaders have kicked off the White River Master Plan. The idea is to boost quality of life and investment along nearly 60 miles of the White River. Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development Director Emily Mack and Hamilton County Tourism CEO Brenda Myers came in studio to talk about the plan.
I want to start with you, Emily. This year-long study, development and using the White River in a more efficient way has been talked about for a long time. What prompted this, though? Now you advanced to where you're really going to look at it. What really prompted it?
I think it's decades in the making, if not even a century in the making. In Indianapolis, we're really fortunate to have George Kessler's Parks and Boulevard plan that really envisioned this connected system along our waterways. Fast forward 100 years later, and unfortunately, we've done a really good job of turning our back on the river, and now is our time to embrace it. Citizens Energy Group is doing their big Dig Indy project, and that makes opportunities for the river and how we engage and utilize the river. Our time, right? Yep. And we can do that. And then there has been numerous plans, both with the city and Hamilton County and Visit Indy, that have all been completed recently, and they all involve the river.
City of Indianapolis, Hamilton County Tourism, and the philanthropic arm of Visit Indy all involved here. Brenda, this is nearly a 60-mile stretch of the White River, so it truly is a central Indiana project.
It really is. And if you look at the assets and community parks that are along that river, there are opportunity nodes for economic development and tourism asset development. I think it's really important that this first be a project that focuses on the residents of Central Indiana, but if we can also make it an enticing place to visit, that's just an extra.
This is out into the future, but some of the kinds of uses that could be theoretically that could be seen on the White River to really leverage it as an economic development tool.
I know we have a park called Straw-Tunkatawi Park that's on the north end. It's 850 acres that already has a lot of assets, but what can we take that next step? And I think that's one of the things that Emily and I focus on a lot with this community asset-based project, is that it has to complement each other and not replicate each other.
Yeah. Emily, talk about the public hearings, public meetings for feedback, for input begin next week. Talk about the process and the study and the things that are going to be looked at regarding the White River.
So what we are currently doing is evaluating the hydrology, geology, ecology of the river and how the river works and functions. So that work is going on right now. But over the next 12 months, there's going to be a tremendous opportunity for community engagement. So currently, people can go to mywhiteriver.com. You can get newsletter updates. You can sign up to be a river guide and help be a champion and an advocate. Next week, we are starting a series of public meetings, which are also on mywhiteriver.com. But throughout the next 12 months, there will be events and activities on the river. There will be surveys. There will be lots of opportunities for community engagement.
I only have about 30 seconds left, Brenda, but again, this is a generational type initiative.
It's a long view.
So it's a year study, and then it will be numerous years.
Decades, we feel. But I think we both feel a need to get onto something immediately so we can celebrate some successes, but it is the long view. This is for generations to come.
All right. The future of the White River will be coming in focus with this vision plan. Emily Mack, the director of the Department of Metropolitan Development for the City of Indianapolis. Brenda Myers, the CEO at Hamilton County Tourism. Thank you both. We'll have you back on to talk about it.
Thank you.
All right.
Later in the podcast, Fishers welcomes a unique yoga business, and Trendiana takes a look at agritourism hotspots throughout the state. But now, DePauw University is planning to invest $40 million into 2 master plans. The efforts aim to improve energy efficiency and enhance the student living experience on the Greencastle campus. President Mark McCoy discussed the strategies in our Eye on Education segment.
The leadership initiative, first of all, this whole issue, this whole topic of leadership is so topical in the business community, and the ability of universities to churn out leaders is really important.
And it's a part of DePauw's heritage for more than 180 years now. DePauw's been developing leaders the world needs. And when we ask folks, what do you know about DePauw? It's always, oh, don't you guys turn out all those leaders, CEOs and that kind of thing. Here's one that's come back and wants to give back and make sure we continue to do that for generations to come.
Yeah, Steve Sanger, his wife, Karen. Steve, former CEO of General Mills. The leadership initiative, talk about what it's all about.
So this is the way that we want to make certain every student at DePauw, regardless of their major, regardless of what they're doing, has leadership opportunities, connections to the world after DePauw. Steve and Karen will both tell you that they became leaders at DePauw even though they didn't plan on doing that. But they got to this institution, they were given some real hands-on opportunities, they made connections to the world after DePauw while they were at DePauw, and their ticket was written.
You mentioned hands-on. This is an experiential learning type of initiative, not a building, but a program that's going to integrate with other programs at the university.
Exactly. So this really unites our centers. We have several different centers. We put 8 together on what we call a Centers Council, which will now be part of the Sanger Leadership Initiative. And these centers will all be united through their gift. And this brings together entrepreneurship, management, media, ethics, technology, the whole world of centers at DePauw. Unites them together under a leadership umbrella, expands the leadership opportunities for every student, and gives opportunities for them to meet the world-changing leaders out there by bringing them to DePauw.
Talk about what this offers in the way of, for lack of a better term, a sales pitch. You're out recruiting, you want to get top students, top faculty, those types of things. Having a leadership initiative, does that give you a leg up?
Absolutely, and it also cements our legacy because we're known as that place. We're the number one undergraduate institution here, and people know that DePauw has a reputation for developing leaders, and so this gives us the opportunity to bring that together, codify it in a much stronger way, and to show people this is very purposeful at DePauw. We intend for you to come here and to leave as a leader in whatever walk of life you choose after DePauw.
You're also making news recently in our Inside Edge and our statewide radio products. Talked about $40 million being invested into a new energy master plan, really becoming a green campus, right?
Absolutely. We've got steam pipes in the old, we really go back a ways in some of our infrastructure. This is removing all of that and bringing us forward in the 21st century. It's rare that you can find that thing that's really good for the institution and good for the planet and good for everyone. It's a win all the way around, and this is one of those. It'll have a quick ROI for us, and it's an investment we need to make.
So big investment, and also you feel will change the experience for students on campus.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, and plus a commitment from DePauw. If we're going to be the leaders the world needs, we have to lead in this area too, and so it's good for us to be green and for people to understand that about us.
All right, major news, not only the Energy Master Plan, but the Sanger Leadership Initiative at DePauw University. President Mark McCoy, as always, thanks very much for talking to us.
Always great to be with you.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, a spotlight on the agritourism industry in Indiana and a leadership change at a prominent high school sports organization. But first, HotWorks, which bills itself as a first-of-its-kind yoga concept, has opened in Fishers. The 24-hour infrared yoga fitness studio plans several Indy area locations. Franchise owner Wendy Osmond joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
So let's talk about what most people are probably wondering. How is this infrared heat? What are the benefits of the infrared heat versus what we typically hear about, like in hot yoga, just standard heat? How is it different?
Yeah, sure. So infrared heat is a radiant heat. And as the body is absorbing this heat, you're feeling that detoxification. The radiant heat is very dry. And so it's not like you're walking into a large studio where you have multiple bodies and it's very moist. This is very comfortable, and your body will acclimate very quickly to it.
And it's different also than your standard fitness studio because you work out in what you guys call boxes. So tell us, these boxes and how the setup is different.
Great. These are semi-private boxes. These are sauna boxes that are designed specifically for these workouts. So we can infuse all these isometric workouts with this infrared to get the full benefits.
Okay, so this sounds, very modern day workout. Technology plays a big role. So tell us, how this is kind of techie too.
It is. Well, in today's world, people are busy and they want to be able to come into a class and not be set for a certain hour, a certain time. This way they can come in and schedule their own appointments through an app that we download for them, so they can pick and choose whatever workout they want to do at any time of the day.
And you have a virtual instructor as well. These instructors aren't there with you.
Right. So these are certified virtual instructors. And they're amazing. And they have multiple different type of workouts that they can view throughout the day. So whether it's a hot yoga, hot Pilates, or perhaps something more intense, these virtual instructors are taking you every step of the way on these workouts.
Okay, so you have a location in Fishers, one of the first in the Midwest. That one opened in May, but you're already planning some other locations.
We are. It is amazing. People who have tried HotWorks, they have seen the results, and they are asking, they're telling their friends, and people are calling constantly wanting to know, are we going to be close to somewhere where they're living? So our next location is downtown Indy, and we will have that open before the end of the year. And we will be opening other locations throughout the Indiana area.
Okay, and there are two basic kinds of workouts that you focus on at HotWorks. So tell us how those two workouts are different.
Great. We have the isometric workouts, as I shared with you before, the yoga, the Pilates, but we also have a high-intensity interval training, such as hot cycling and hot rowing. And because those are such a great cardio workout, they're actually only 15 minutes. They have amazing results, and if you're wanting to get a workout in very quickly, you can get this done in 15 minutes and be on your way.
So, which brings up another point. I think the most common excuse people use when they're exercising is, I don't have the time. So how do you help people overcome that you do have the time, you can work it in?
And then that's exactly it. This is designed for people that are on the go, that are busy. We have an app that they can use to schedule their appointments any time of the day they want. If something should happen and they can't get in at that time, it's very easy for them to unbook that appointment and reschedule it for a time that works best for them. We have full access to the studio 24/7, so they can come and enter the studio at any time of the day they choose with an app that we also provide them. And our studios are fully monitored and secured at all times.
It's fascinating. So, and even you were mentioning the phone through the app opens the door for security purposes if you are to go during, the middle of the night or odd hours.
And that's exactly right, so that we know exactly who's coming and going. It is such a great, easy way of getting a workout in, accomplishing what you're trying to do in just a short period of time.
All right, already you said about 325 members at the Fishers location. So a success there already. Good luck with your expansion plans as you continue to open.
Thank you very much.
Later in the podcast, a change at the top at the National Federation of State High School Associations and perspective on the week's top stories from our panel of insiders. But now, with more and more consumers interested in where their food is coming from, agritourism has spiked in recent years. It ranges from farm tours to hands-on experiences with animals and crops. Agritourism is the subject of this month's Trendiana segment with Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith.
You and I, we've talked about this before.
Yes.
Agritourism, elements of agritourism have been around Indiana for a long time, but now it seems like increasingly we're seeing a real strategy behind agritourism and really growing it.
Yeah, I remember hearing the term first like 10 years ago, and now it is just a natural term that people are using. People are wanting to see where their food comes from, and it's a really fun experience for the farms.
As always, you have some great examples from around the state. And we begin right here in central Indiana in Zionsville with a business that is getting a lot of national attention. Traders Point Creamery.
Yeah, in Zionsville. Traders Point Creamery is known for people loving to come see the actual tours with the cows, go in the evening, see how the milking process works. And you can't mention Traders Point Creamery without mentioning their dairy bar and their spoonable chocolate milk. That's one of the top things that stands out in the Yelp reviews. So when you go there, you have to get the ice cream, have to get the chocolate milk, and see it all in action.
Yeah, it really has become a popular destination. Another place that's become a destination, you see the billboards on I-65, right, as you go south to Louisville. Goat milk stuff. We did a story several years ago. Fascinating company and operation.
Yes, truly a family business in Scottsburg. Goat milk stuff is a spot where you can go. You can play with the kids. The baby goats. You can do goat yoga, tours of the farm, and then actually in their farm store, they're selling everything from lotions to fudge to milk to yogurts, the full spectrum. It's amazing all the things they're making with their production.
And as you said, not a better example of a family-run business. The kids are really engaged.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Wolcottville. grill and cooks bison ranch.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't tried bison before, but it's actually leaner than hamburger. And this business offers covered wagon tours. We can go out, you can see the herd, they bring you back to the farm, you can learn recipes that you can be making with bison, and that's through the spring, through the fall, and really getting people to maybe try a new meat and support that business.
All right, we go to Northwest Indiana now, and a place that I think is really the icon when it comes to agritourism in Indiana, and that's Fair Oaks Farms.
Yeah, it's become like its own amusement park in a sense. Everything from concerts to learning about crops, pig production. Their birthing barn is by far the thing that stands out in the Yelp reviews, in addition to being able to get a snack there. So you can get the grilled cheese stands out, butter pecan ice cream. It's truly an attraction that you can spend half a day at.
Yeah. Okay, this is a unique or kind of a different venue, a hospital.
Yes.
Eskenazi Health downtown has an urban farm, a sky farm. Right?
Yes, in addition to agritourism blossoming, urban farming is as well. So it is a 5,000 square foot farm on the rooftop of Eskenazi, providing produce for the restaurants in-house for all of the patients. And then one of the Yelp tips is if you grab some food down at Duos on the lower level, take it up there. It's open to the public.
Wow.
Best views of downtown.
Very
it's
good.
Gorgeous.
Wrap up this segment with Hunter's Honey Farm in Martinsville.
Yes, this is a great spot. People are actually been paying a lot more attention to bees and how they affect our crops. So Hunter's Honey Farm offers experiences where you can go out, suit up, see the hives up close, and then purchase the products that are made from them.
Lots of great examples. Agritourism is really a growing business, literally around the state of Indiana. Brittany Smith from Yelp, as always.
Thank you.
All right.
Still to come, our panel of insiders weighs in on the biggest stories of the week. But first, National Federation of State High School Associations leader Bob Gardner has announced plans to retire in August. He has been in the role for more than 8 years. During his tenure, participation in high school sports has increased, including more opportunities for students with disabilities. Gardner joined Bill Benner for Inside Indiana Sports.
A great career, 48 years, and I guess that says why, because that's a long time and it's probably time.
Well, that's exactly right, Bill. I've enjoyed every facet of my career, but it's time to pass it off to younger leadership now, and I look forward to the next chapter.
A lot of changes over those 48 years, and again, you started out at the storied Milan High School, but and then commissioner of the IHSAA, and now with the federation, but you have to witness sea changes, I would guess.
Well, there really has been, but you know, Bill, the one thing that's been constant has been the young people who participate in our programs, and one of the things I'm most proud of is that number of participants grows every year.
And you just came off your convention, your national convention in Chicago. I know you discuss successes, challenges. What, as you look back with the Federation, what do you see as some of your highlights?
Well, I think one of the things that's really been a real highlight has been our education program. And we focus heavily on risk minimization for the student athletes who play our contests, and then also trying to develop good citizens. Our education program is online, and sometime later this month, we'll have the 7 millionth course delivered. And our focus on concussions was a topic of conversation, as well it should be, in Chicago among our folks, and we're really proud of that course. It's designed, there's a course designed for parents, one for students, and one for coaches and administrators, and we're about to hit 3.7 million who've seen that course. So that's really one of the highlights for me, and I think that is paying dividends, again, for all the young people across America.
You also web stream a lot of content.
We do. We've built our own web streaming network. It's called the NFHS Network. Almost all of our state associations are participating in that, and this school year we delivered over 48,000 sporting events, and we're not limiting to sports because, as you know, we also have the performing arts, speech, theater, debate, and music, and those are an important part of our organization, and those events are also web streamed live on the NFHS network.
One of the things I find really fulfilling and inspiring is the message-based by the Federation and the IHSAA do wonderful message-based themes based on high school athletics?
Well, I think that's very important, Bill. Sometimes in this world we live in today, the focus gets out of focus, if you will, blurred when people think it's all about winning, and it's about so much more than that. Young people's opportunities to participate, to grow and learn are so important to their development, and I think the IHSA has done a terrific job, and of course we've assisted at the national level with all state associations carrying that important message.
Your successor will be Carissa Niehoff. We look forward to having her on this program and introducing her to the Indianapolis audience, the Indiana audience, from Connecticut. As we wrap up, what kind of advice have you shared with Carissa?
Well, I think to Carissa, she'll bring a new energy, a new focus. She's a terrific person. The challenges will remain, as they always will, for anybody that sits in that seat. But to be Carissa, she can't be me. She's got to be herself, and she'll be extremely effective if she does that.
Well, Bob, we certainly, again, thank you for an outstanding 48-year career in all facets of high school sports and participation, and you just had a great career. And grandkids and travel.
That's the target.
There you go.
And finally, our panel of insiders offers perspective on the week's top stories. This week's panel includes Visit Indy Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Chris Gall, financial advisor and author, Peter Dunn, and Beck Communications Group President, Laura Beck.
We'll start off. I'd like to get all of your thoughts. We're at the midpoint of 2018. A lot of economic news, a lot of positive news. Your take, Pete, as we enter into the second half of the year, the Indiana economy.
Yeah, I think it can go one of two ways. It can go the tariff meltdown of the heartland, or it can go Amazon shows up and none of it matters. Like I feel like those are the two stories to watch. I think there's going to definitely be an impact if the tariffs are going to be a long-term thing for Indiana business.
The tariffs, the NAFTA overhaul, a lot of talk. It could be a huge impact in Indiana.
It could, and I think what's interesting to see around the country is there's a pretty strong base for the presidency here in central Indiana, and to have that impact, maybe some of the folks that voted for him, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2020 if that's the case.
Yeah, there's been a lot of national press and even local press about how potentially tariffs could impact Indiana, especially given the context that we are in an election year with one of the probably most watched and most targeted Senate races. So how that all plays out as we head into the election is going to be interesting, especially because there's some recent data that shows that Indiana's two-thirds farmland, and we have 57,000 farming operations in Indiana. So that's a wide-ranging impact.
Yeah, Chris, your take, especially on the first half, a lot of economic development announcements, Infosys among them, a big announcement. The tourism sector continues to roll.
Yeah, we saw the cards kind of play out and what the old airport terminal will turn into. That's a big win, and I think I agree with Pete. Amazon, whether they come or not, ultimately we win as a state because Wall Street Journal was reporting Sacramento's now out of the running, but it's been able to draw the line A to B on other projects, economic development projects that have raced in because of them even being in the top 20. So good things first half of the year and great things in the next half.
I think one of the key parts, too, about Amazon is it's making us have some tough discussions about who we want to be and where we want to go. And we know that transit is something that we need to make some inroads on. And so it's giving us this opportunity to really look ahead as to what we want to do and where we want to be.
Interesting in terms of the mix of the economy, what companies doing. Cummins had a big acquisition announced this week, a Silicon Valley company that they acquired part of $500 million in investment over the next 3 years in electrification technology. Interesting that they're getting it.
Yeah, sometimes you see one tech company buy another, or you see someone from Silicon Valley end up purchasing something in the heartland. But to see something from the heartland go out and purchase technology in Silicon Valley, it's cool to see. And an established company like Cummins, to see them make a move is pretty great.
I agree. We take so for granted this idea that the Lillys and the Cummins and the sales forces are here. You think about Cummins and what they've done, not only to our neighbors and down south, but here in Indianapolis, their footprint. it's huge. We can't take them for granted.
No, we can't at all. And it really, for them, I think it shows just how innovative they are, because it is such a springboard for them into the electrified and hybrid markets. And so I think when we think of folks who are on that cutting edge and looking 10, 15, 20 years down the road, Cummins is right at the top of that list. We're lucky to have him here.
And you look at, too, the White River, as switching gears here,
Sure.
and a real look now, a year-long strategic look at, can the White River be an economic asset?
Well, I think it absolutely can. And I say kudos to the folks that are involved in making this happen. When you think of how far it stretches, and when you think about the impact it has on the different communities in which it exists, there is really some great potential there. And I know, Chris, you were telling us off screen a little bit about some of the work that you've been involved with.
Yeah, the White River runs 58 miles north of Noblesville, south of Southport. And so as a community, we've been turning our back on this naturally occurring asset. It's prime for exploring, it's prime for development, and here we're kicking off, and by next year this time, we'll take community input and say, what do you want to see the White River become? And it goes beyond having hotels and infrastructure, but by 2025, we know that it'll be recreationally safe, and you can swim in it just like Eagle Creek, just like Geist.
Well, I mean, it's perfect for timing-wise for my midlife crisis as I've taken up fishing. So selfishly, let's get that sucker cleaned up.
I think you're going to be buying a big boat. I think you're going to get a big boat on credit.
That's the key, is to not. It's to get a kayak.
Credit card, yeah.
On his credit card, yes.
That's right.
Chris, I'll go to you on this. Interesting Terre Haute, Vigo County considering a food and beverage tax to fund a convention center. They want to get, and it's kind of done a kicking and screaming. It's been a challenge, but it looks like it may happen.
Well, in 0405, we used the 1% increase in food and beverage and hotel tax to fund the expansion of the convention center in Lucas Oil. Same playbook here, same page of the playbook. Kudos to them. It's important. We, as a state, have to diversify the meeting facilities that we offer. Certainly, Fort Wayne does a good job. It'd be nice to have Terre Haute add into the mix. It's a relief valve so that the capital city can host bigger and even more conventions.
And you bring up Fort Wayne. I think anytime there's a tax increase, it can be a tough sell. It can be something difficult to do. Fort Wayne did it. Their downtown is rolling.
Yeah,
great. Yeah. And it takes courage out of the local leaders to pull the trigger on that. Yep. And sometimes your constituents, they don't realize that.
Well, you want to do it now before your 2019 municipal election year. Sorry to interrupt you. That's always said, not to be cynical, but that's a good time to do it.
Yeah. All right, shifting gears. Sun King, the state's second largest craft brewer, is now into craft distilling in a big way, really toasting the opening of the Sun King Distillery in Carmel. Big part of that growth. You talk about happening downtowns. Carmel is involved.
Yeah, my favorite part about this, there's a great place in St. Louis. So we were down there. There's this family place where you can go and drink beer. It's this huge beer hall. And you can take your kids. So Chris and I can take our families and we can drink distilled spirits and have good food stalls.
When our kids were young, it was ground round.
That's right.
Right, peanuts on the floor. Someone's going to get hurt.
Floor and your popcorn.
Yeah, so let's meet for a drink.
You look at, since 2009, they have exploded, Sun King. Their brand equity is so strong. Their following is so strong. Look for a lot of people to converge in and around their spirits.
And it was their effort, Sun King, Three Floyds, the ownership, the leadership in those breweries, the winery down in southeast Indiana, Huber.
Yeah.
They got laws changed to enable this to happen.
Yeah, we would have lost them.
Yeah, they're also, they are a homegrown success story. And when you think of how creative they are at getting into smaller festivals and at really building that brand in creative ways, they've really distinguished themselves. And so it's exciting to see this new,
I'll say quickly,
place happen.
They're also, they're making everyone better within the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
They're not short-sighted and myopic in the sense that they're just all for themselves. They're making everyone better.
Yeah.
We want to get, you talk about disruptive things or changes, the scooter craze. Right in downtown Indianapolis, Bird and Lime, two Silicon Valley startups, right, are here. A lot of people love them. A lot of people aren't quite so sure where it's going to go. Now, Laura, I know you represent one of those companies.
Yes, in full disclosure, I do work with Lime, but they have been a partner in really working with the city in terms of identifying some regulatory framework. Yeah. It is interesting when you look at the numbers on how many rides have happened, how far they're going. There really is a need for it, and there's a desire for it. I know Pete is not a big fan of the new technology, but it's been real interesting for downtown.
Visitors are asking, anywhere from 2 to 25 reside at the front door of the convention center on any given day. It is visitor-centric, but they have to be safe, they have to be regulated, and ultimately, the tech folks love them.
Okay, Pete, we've only got 10 seconds. LeBron and Lance.
Oh my gosh.
United in LA.
I'm happy for Lance. I hope Lance gets a ring. I don't think Lance will be on the team come November.
Oh.
I'm going to miss Lance.
Yeah,
I'm going to miss him. He was so gracious when he was
Peter
leaving.
Dunn, Laura Beck, Chris Gall. Thanks for joining us.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.